United Stand. Ridiculous. Anyway, I'll edit that later. Welcome to the United Stand. We're here tonight to talk about Paul Pogba and a lot of other things. Manchester United dressing room. Luke Shaw, I'm sure, will get featured again. But I've got Rodney with me. Rodney, we're going to talk about Paul Pogba first because I did see your comment the other day about, you said that maybe we should be looking to get rid of Paul Pogba. International duty always brings along these sort of comments, doesn't it? And we've had two ones in relation to Pogba, really. One from Jamie Redknapp, take it with a pinch of salt. Pogba won't forgive Fellaini. I'm sure nobody will forgive Fellaini. Pogba won't forgive Mourinho for playing Fellaini over him, a flair player, in the Sevilla game, and that was utterly embarrassing. And then also Didier Deschamps saying that I'm sure Pogba's not happy at Manchester United at the moment. So I mean, I cannot see Pogba going anywhere. But why is it that you think you would be thinking about moving Pogba on at the moment?
In all reality, in the reality of him and being a superstar player, he's been at the club 2 years. He's been at the club. He's returned to the club that he knows very, very well for 2 years. And maybe I'm on my own, but I'm not impressed with what I've seen so far. There have been glimpses. There has been 15 seconds within games that people have taken videos of and retweeted and posted on social media. But I don't think that he is up to being a Manchester United football player or a legend or a captain or a leader. He's more interested in his social media profile and about what he does off the pitch than he does on the pitch. There was all that talk at the beginning of the year with him and Zlatan about the responsibilities of being a leader and stepping up to the plate. His performances have been nowhere near anything like that. Nothing. Regardless of all of the fanfare that goes around him, all of the entourage that may follow him, he has not delivered.
Do you not think that's Mourinho, though? Do you think, because Sanchez is the same, Martial is the same, do you not think that's because of the style of play that Mourinho is implementing on his attacking players? Because the only attacking player that's doing well is Lukaku, and Lukaku isn't a flair player. Lukaku, as we've said many a time, give him chances, he scores goals. He's not a flair player.
No, he's not. Do you know what it is? You see, Lukaku is like Matic. He's your meat and gravy.
Yeah.
He's what you get on your plate, and you know that you need those things. But the other little things around it, the additional frills, they're in abundance in our team. We've got loads of them. We've got loads of frill players. We've got loads of, the Martials, as you said, the Pogba, the Sanchez. But you need a little bit of meat and gravy in your team. So Lukaku and Matic, they stand out. At this moment in time, McTominay stands out because he's doing the meat and gravy stuff that every team needs. Your frill players, they're meant to devastate the opposition when they get the ball. They're literally meant to obliterate them. No step overs just for cameos. And I wouldn't... It is really easy to say that Jose Mourinho was like the antichrist of football. He's like he literally drains the skill out of all skillful footballers. It's really easy for anyone and everyone to say that, but it comes down to personal pride and professional development in any football player, regardless of who the manager is. At this moment in time, people are talking about Pep and they're blowing smoke up Pep, saying he's the best thing since sliced bread. But Jose, pound for pound, is just as successful a manager as him. His methods are different.
It's interesting because Alejandro Velarde says Lukaku is playing on pure effort. And when you were saying that, I think this is a big indication of where United are going wrong in the style of play at the moment, because we're bigging up Matic and Lukaku. And I agree, they are the meat and gravy, or what you just said there, because they're not flair players, but they're the standout players. And that for me is a big red flag that there's something wrong at Manchester United, because actually Lukaku and Matic should basically be the sort of Carrick players that they just do their job because they're very consistent, but they're not noticed as the stars. And that just shows you that our star players, your Rashfords, your Martials, your Pogbas, your Sanchez, even your Mattas and your Lingards, they're not regularly being called our star players because we're not noticing them. And I think that's the style of play issue. But in relation to Pogba, I personally felt that Pogba... I totally disagree with you, but that's what it's all about. It's all about opinion. But I do want to get into it because I know there's a lot of people in the live comments who have issues with Pogba. And the thing with Pogba is started the season off fantastically well. got that injury, came back, was very good in November. I mean, my favourite game of the season was the Arsenal game. It could have gone either way, but I thought Pogba, although he got sent off, was world class that game. And then he sort of came back after the suspension and wasn't so good, and then it culminated in that substitution at half-time against Spurs in January. And then Sanchez, for me, is the reason that Pogba is not playing well, because when he's on the left wing, he goes into spaces that Pogba wants to go into. That's a tactical thing. But the bottom line is, for anybody who is a Pogba fan like me, I have to accept that last Tuesday night, a week ago, Pogba was fit and didn't get picked. Fellaini did. At the weekend, Pogba was fit and didn't. Did he come on against Huddersfield? I can't remember if he did or he didn't. I don't think he did.
I don't think he did. No.
No. So I mean, that's Paul Pogba for you at the moment. Our biggest signing in our history, and he can't get into our two biggest games of the season.
But then, I'm all right. I can understand the flip side saying that's Mourinho's fault. But what are those players not doing to force the manager's hand to say you've got to pick me? And
would you pick Fellaini though? I mean, that situation last Tuesday.
No. I wouldn't pick Fellaini at all.
I'd pick you over him. I'd pick you over him. But I've never seen you play football in my life. But
likewise, I wouldn't pick Fellaini anywhere near a football team. I've said that Fellaini is like the J. Edgar Hoover of football. He's got secrets on everyone, because I don't know, and I don't understand how he actually gets onto a football pitch. He doesn't offer anything. You know, you've got ex-professional footballers sitting in studios that will tell you he's no threat to you. And you don't usually get ex-professional footballers that out a player like that and say, he doesn't damage you, he doesn't hurt you. They'll talk them up, they'll say what they're good at. But Fellaini, he's played against Gerrard, he's played against Scholes. Those guys look at him and think, he's not posing any threat to us whatsoever. He's not a problem. So they can sit in the studio and say that. So I'm like you, I wouldn't have picked Fellaini ahead of Pogba, but I have to ask the question, why is Pogba not being picked ahead of Fellaini? What is he not doing? What has he not delivered for all of that? Because he's come along in terms of, you know, the fanfare saying he's going to be the next big thing, and he's played alongside Pirlo and Vidal and, you know, all of this talk, and he's won things. But he's now back at United. It's going to be 2 years in the summer. You know, we United fans have been quick, and quite rightly, to fixate on Sanchez and say he gives the ball away he's only been there since January, and I'm not going to defend him and say you're right, no, you shouldn't do that. If you give the ball away, highlight him. Pogba's no different. He's been there 2 years, hasn't done enough.
I do agree with that. I mean, I really want to get into what Simon Stone said. If people haven't heard that today, I think that is absolutely revelational stuff, and we will get onto that in a moment. A lot of people asking about why I didn't go live at 1 o'clock and give the tracksuit away, because I've decided to keep it myself. It's really nice, and I want to keep it. Now, it's not been given away yet. I don't know who's won yet, because the reality is I'm really struggling with a cold at the moment, and I felt so rubbish at lunchtime that I just went to sleep. And I was meant to do a 1 o'clock show, but I'll do it tomorrow, so it's on hold. It's going to happen. The video idea is still brilliant. Even if I do say so myself, but I'll do it tomorrow. I just felt rubbish today, so it's not been done, so don't worry. Thanks Jermaine Decray for the contribution there. But just on Pogba, he has been international break. You see, people go, it's international break, it's so boring. Well, you've got United stand every night at 8 o'clock for a start. We've got some 1 o'clock specials for you as well. It will fly by, and for me, I'm enjoying this break. I need a break from the bloody mess that's been the last week at United. There's been so much to digest, and even more is coming out. But international break, as I said last night, guarantee you at some point it will go big on De Gea to Real Madrid, because it always does in this one. But Pogba's on duty. He comes out with the words in relation to Neymar, a big admirer of Neymar, and at some point in the future we're going to play together. And I don't want Neymar anywhere near Manchester United, which may be more controversial than you saying you want Pogba to go. But Neymar FC. But to me, that's not about him coming to United anyway. That's about Real Madrid. We'll play there together, I think.
Yeah, I think Pogba, you know, he's one of the many footballers that once they go back to their home country, you know, there's leaks, there's, you know, misinterpretations, it was misquoted, all those things. Someone asked him about Neymar and he said he'd be a great player to play with. The likelihood is that Neymar will be nowhere near Manchester United, but Pogba could see himself leave. I'm not even so much sold on the fact that I want Pogba to go. I just think between Jose and Pogba, I think Jose will win. But you know what? I ain't got a problem with that. I mean, as much as Pogba won't go, and I don't want him to go because I think we've seen what he can be.
I do think, like Roy Keane has said, and I think Gary Neville said it, and a couple of people have said it, and a lot of people in the live comments have said it. There's definitely, what was it? Keane said it was something about like it's like he's playing a video game. It's all a joke. There's no real. He doesn't really seem to, when he comes on in a game like Sevilla. All right, he didn't start the game, but come on and grab hold of the game. Come on and do something. And it's lethargic. It's jokey. Like the first thing he does when he goes back to France is go and get his hair cut. I mean, it's very similar to the colours of Man City. DT from Arsenal Fan TV did a very good tweet. But it's like, and Matteo7 says there, look how Pogba is when he gets away from Mourinho. I think there'll be a lot of players feeling like that over the international break, just happy to get away. But it's like, he's been embarrassed. Even as a Pogba fan, I think we can all admit his form over the last 6 weeks has been embarrassing for a player of his standard. But he gets away from United. He's talking about Neymar. He's having his hair done. I bet he'll be dabbing again. And it's like, that maybe is the problem.
It's like a scene from Goodfellas where all the wives are getting together and having their hair done. They're moaning about their other half. I honestly, with him going away, it might be what he needs. He might need a different scene to kind of clear his head and talk about what he needs to do. He's on international duty. His country will expect big things of him. I hope he doesn't have the same lackadaisical attitude when he pulls on that blue jersey. But you're right, Mark. He has been it's almost treated it like it's a joke. And Manchester United are not a joke. The fans are not a joke. We expect. He came along with a fanfare. And the thing with Pogba, he should literally be the first name on the sheet alongside De Gea. His stature is that, I am the best midfielder in this league and I deserve to play. And his performances haven't demonstrated that or demanded that. The short amount of time that he came on against Sevilla, I mean, he like the 10-yard pass that he put out into touch while he wasn't even being under pressure. I thought to myself, you cannot expect any United fan to actually not acknowledge that and say, oh, never mind. If it were a Rashford, you might say he's naive. If it was a Martial, you might say he was slightly nervous. But Pogba is 25. He's not a child anymore. He's a man in his mid-20s. He needs to understand where he is.
I mean, we're a little bit older, Rodney. Not too much older, but we're a little bit older. And there's a comment here from Mini Diver saying, imagine Keane walking in as manager. I don't... You know what? If I could do one thing, I don't think Mourinho needs to go. I'm a fan of Mourinho. I don't think he needs to go. I think the coaching staff he surrounds himself with is just archaic. And he needs... every successful organisation, whether it's Apple, McDonald's or Billy's Tyres down the road, they need some sort of evolution to keep themselves. Sir Alex Ferguson used to do it with his assistant manager all the time. Keep it rotating, keep it rotating. I would love, and apparently Mourinho does watch the United stand sometimes. So if you're watching Jose, I would bloody love, go and get Roy Keane. I don't care whether he's a coach. Just send, you don't even have to do it. Chuck him in the dressing room, lock the door, and just leave it. You'll hear the explosions in there. He'll kick the crap out of Lingard's phone. He'll chuck Pogba's phone up bloody Fellaini's arse. Who cares? But that's what it needs. I think that team isn't far off. There was a comment today, I forget who it was from. I think it's Chris Sutton, who I can't stand. I think he talks absolute nonsense. But he said United players are currently playing about 40% of what they can do. And I think that's it. It's to do with motivation. And it was a comment in Ozil's book, Rodney, about, everyone thinks Mourinho's a hard task driver or anything like that. He actually doesn't mind if you go out partying or anything like that. It's about putting the effort in on the pitch. He won't get involved in your personal life or anything like that. Well, I think that's what we bloody do need. Sir Alex Ferguson would be going around all the pubs to round his players up in the 80s and 90s. I'd just love to send Roy Keane into that club. I don't even care if he's a crap coach. Just send him in to sort them out. None of this bloody can't stand this bloody dabbing dancing. But if you're going to do it when we're in the line to win a treble or something like that. Not when we're playing crap football. And I'm fed up of all that. And I really do wish we could rejuvenate his coaching staff. Chuck somebody in there who knows the club. Roy Keane. I'd love it. Absolutely love it.
You know what? I'd actually, even with that, I know you put in a very good point. The issue about the coaching staff, which knew the club inside out, which were there in the good times, were removed by Moyes. All of those individuals that understood the framework of Manchester United as a club, literally obliterated. So it's almost what you would expect from Jose to keep those trusted individuals around him. but he does need something different. He does. He's had the same individuals, I suppose, with him when he was at Chelsea, when he was at Madrid, when he was at Inter. Manchester United needs it's almost like to take a leaf out of the Bayern Munich book, where they've got, past players, as part of the infrastructure who understand what's required, and they openly talk about what players need to do.
Well, apparently,
and they're not abused about it. They openly talk about what the club need to do.
I mean, this leads into what I was going to ask you next, but apparently it just drops into my head. I've heard people say this a few times, and I've heard it a few times, that although Sir Alex Ferguson and Sir Bobby Charlton are part of the hierarchy at Manchester United, they're more symbolic. They're not actually consulted on, certainly not the business side of things, the transfer side of things. They're just, they're more like ornaments. They're not really part of the decision making. And I mean, Simon Stone, he's a BBC journalist, and you may see him if you ever watch Mourinho's press conference. He'll often ask a question, and I hadn't seen this until today, and a lot of people are saying fake news, but if you ever follow Simon Stone in the BBC, he will come out and say United aren't interested in Fabinho and we won't sign Fabinho. So, he's not 100% all the time, but when he says something, there's normally something to it. And people have been calling it fake news today. I think it's very unfair because he's a good journalist. And even he has said that the Manchester United board are very happy with Mourinho. They knew what they were getting when they went for him, and they wanted some stability. And the reality is, they were going down a cul-de-sac of failure, and they're moving up that cul-de-sac with Mourinho. So that, I'm sure they're not totally happy, but it's certainly improvement, which we must remember. But this was very interesting in relation to what you're saying there, because it does touch on what you were saying about what Moyes did. And I will never, ever, ever, ever stop saying that Moyes has got the biggest case to answer, because when he walked in and got rid of the backroom staff and all the experienced players was a joke. But this was from Simon Stone on BBC Radio 5 last night, so I would take this not as gospel but pretty close. The criticism from Mourinho has gone down badly with Luke Shaw. He is pretty upset by this. I cannot overstate how angry people in his camp are. He is not long back from a broken leg, and this is not the first time Mourinho has had a go at him. He has repeatedly singled out Shaw. The realisation is dawning that his future is better served away from Manchester United. Some of the players are incredulous as to why this is happening. Some will think it's the manager signing off. Some will be keeping their head down. But I am told it is a very individual environment. On that, it means the dressing room is split for me. Yeah. Michael Carrick has been there for 12 to 13 years and is about to go into the coaching team. If anyone is going to stand up to Shaw, it should be Carrick. It is interesting to see how that dynamic will unfold. It is not the dressing room of 4 or 5 years ago, when there were players like Evra, Vidic and Ferdinand who would go to Sir Alex Ferguson and say there was an issue. To me, obviously it's worded in a certain way, but to me that reads that we've got a dressing room that's very apathetic and lets Mourinho do his own thing, and there are divides, but not in a way of 4 or 5 years ago where you had strong personalities who were passionate about the club and would go and sort it out with the manager. I think he's saying there are divides there, but people are very self-centred, apathetic, and they don't get involved. And that's not good. I'd rather people were arguing.
Yeah, you know what? It brings to mind there's no I in team. And it sounds like everyone's only interested in themselves. They don't even have the stomach to stand up for one another in the dressing room, let alone to stand up for one another on the pitch. So I'm not surprised to hear that, or I'm not surprised to actually you repeat that kind of insinuation from someone else, because I can actually believe it. I can actually believe that they don't have the character to say something is wrong, or I believe I should be doing this and I believe I should be doing that, or even to talk to one another and say, right, this is what you're doing wrong. I played football at a very basic level, Sunday and Saturday. And my manager would always say something very simple: stop the cross at source. That means whatever you needed to do to put the ball into touch with the player or without the player, you did. But you never allowed the cross to come in. So when I heard Jose's remarks after the game, I could understand, yep, that was a problem down on that side. People may say it wasn't, but if you've got Smalling in defence and you're not sure about his heading ability or whether he's going to pick up his man, you want to make sure that you reduce those kind of percentages by stopping the cross. And if you isolate Shaw and you isolate Valencia and say you weren't doing enough, then as a manager, if you're not getting that on the pitch, you've got no other choice but to say what you need to say. Because no one on the pitch was saying it.
Yeah, I mean, I just think, you know, we mentioned teams of the past, and it's difficult to look back on that because it was such a good period of time. But we do. I've said it so many times. I mean, Antonio Valencia as captain, it's a gimmick. He's not a captain. He's not a leader. He's a decent player, but he's not a leader. And we need, at this time, I remember Sir Alex Ferguson being under fire in the past. It sounds ridiculous, but there was. I think it was around 2006. There was even people saying get Fergie out. You know, it was after, it was when Arsenal were dominating. When Mourinho was dominating, actually, and he went through some difficult times, but he had leaders on the pitch, whether it was Roy Keane or after he'd gone, you know, your Scholes, your Keanes, your Nevilles, even, you know, your Rooneys, leaders on the pitch, leaders in the dressing room. And I look around that Manchester United squad, there's a lot of big names there, but Pogba's not a leader. He's not shown any leadership. He's not come on when we needed him and helped us out. Sanchez is brand new to the club. Martial, Rashford, they're kids. Lingard, he's not a leader. I think the only leader we've got is probably somebody like Lukaku, but that generates its own problem because he's not. You want a leader you want your leader to be your best players, don't you? Really, you want your leaders to be, you know, your Vidic, your Roy Keane, your Brian Robson, your Giggs. You want leaders to be your best players, and Lukaku can lead, but I think he's missed Zlatan this year, to be honest. I know I'm a big fan of Zlatan, but I think what we did have with Zlatan last year up until his injury, yes, he had the lack of pace, but he was a leader, and I think that I can't understand why Mourinho hasn't rectified that. And I wonder, I'll put this to you, Rodney, and the live comments. I've got a theory. Throughout his career, whether it was John Terry at Chelsea, Real Madrid obviously had some good leaders there, same at Inter Milan, very experienced leaders, went to Chelsea, and I think he got really burnt by that dressing room turning on him for the first time in his career. And I'm wondering now if he surrounds himself with a squad that's quite apathetic on purpose so that he can't lose the dressing room. But actually, he needs leaders, but he's scared to have them in case he has a situation where he loses a dressing room like Chelsea.
I think that is a possibility in terms of him. That obviously, when you lose the dressing room like that as a manager, you're always going to remember the bad moments from that point of view. But I think he's thick-skinned enough to want someone of that caliber in his dressing room, like a John Terry, like a Sergio Ramos. You know, those defenders that will literally kick their granny to get 3 points because they would, you know, because they knew what it was for the club, they knew what it was for the fans of those particular clubs. I would actually say probably Bay's probably close to that, but we need to see him, you know, consistently in a season. I would say Rojo's probably got that temperament, but he's been injured.
Herrera, but something's gone there. I don't know what.
Yeah, I mean, something's gone there. But what you need, you've got a very strong goalkeeper. You've got a very strong, because you have to be playing behind Smalling and Jones. You have to be strong-minded. You've got Lukaku who's come in, and for all his criticisms, and I've said that he hasn't moved as much as I think he should have. He scored all those goals, and then in between those two individuals, there's pockets of what you would think are greatness that hasn't really materialized. And we need at least two people to be in the spine of that to kind of pull things together. And that's the bit that irks me the most about Pogba, because he could feel that, but he hasn't.
I think you're spot on. We do miss that, but I do think that the future in relation to that is bright. You've touched on it there. You've got Eric Bailly, you've got Rojo. God knows what's going to happen with Herrera, but I think Fosu Mensah has that mentality as well. I think he's very, very tenacious and aggressive in the way he plays. I think Rashford has it. He's just a kid. So is Fosu Mensah, funnily enough. But some kids are more advanced in their aggression than others. I don't think, I love Martial. I don't think he's ever going to be a leader. I don't think every player has to be, but there are signs of positivity there. But we're a long way off. We're a long way off where we need to be, and it does always surprise me. And I've said it a few times with Mourinho that I don't like John Terry, but he's probably one of the best leaders the Premier League's ever had. And nothing like Roy Keane. Roy Keane was 10 times the player and captain he was, but Sir Alex Ferguson won a lot of trophies because of Roy Keane, because Roy Keane was Sir Alex Ferguson on the pitch, and Mourinho won a lot of trophies, and Chelsea won a lot of trophies because of John Terry, because he was, and Gerrard with Liverpool. These are people who get what the club's about, and when the going gets tough, they'll bring it on. And I think United have missed that for so long, and I don't know why we've not tried to rectify it, because for me it's a no-brainer. It really is a no-brainer. That why wouldn't you want somebody like that on your pitch that can, galvanise the team and grab it by the neck when its heads are dropping, and smack the chin up and all that. So
I think I mean, when you talk about like Swanzebe and Fosu-Mensah, hopefully they will add that next season. Hopefully they will add that. But when you talk about John Terry came through the ranks at Chelsea, when you talk about Gerrard came through the ranks at Liverpool, they understood what it was to be at those clubs. They understood the fans, so therefore they gave everything. In our defence, in the Manchester United defence, homegrown players to understand.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, the thing is as well with United, we must always sort of remember, I mean, forget the class of 92 as managers or whatever. Maybe they will come back, maybe they won't. But it's only in our very recent history that we've lost something that we had for, pretty much 20 years. Class of 92 were, there for a long, long time. And, it wasn't that long ago that Ryan Giggs retired or Paul Scholes. So we've always had them around, and we have stepped, we lost a lot. When Sir Alex Ferguson went, we lost our legs. David Gill, we lost our brain. The class of 92, we lost our hearts. So we did lose a lot, and I think we should always remember that we did lose a lot when all that went, and it was always going to be difficult to come back. And I understand the impatience, but it was always difficult. Amar Beg says leader equals Matic. Not for me. Good player, but he's not a leader. He's quite a quiet player, I think, on the pitch. But the next thing I want to talk about is quite interesting as well. It's not my quote. I saw it today. Obviously, we're talking about losing Luke Shaw. I think that's probably inevitable, although we can hope not. I don't think Martial will go, but he does get mentioned, and we're mentioning Pogba as well. Would the board be interested or wise to try and sort of intervene in any of these sort of sales, considering all of them are around their early 20s? And the last, I can think of 3 players that Mourinho let go in their early 20s. One's gone on to be top class, and 2 of them's gone on to be world class, i.e. Salah, now at Liverpool, De Bruyne, now at Man City, and although we've got Lukaku back, he did let Lukaku go as well. So, what are your thoughts on that? And because also I think the comment that I read about that was very much along the lines that Mourinho always wants the finished article, and he's quite lazy with these players that they can be good, but he doesn't want to put the work in.
Well, I mean, it's easy. I mean, everyone can say in hindsight, oh, Jose let those players go. Salah wasn't ready when he went to Chelsea. I think he'd left Basel too soon. De Bruyne obviously didn't have the best time, and I think he wanted more from him as a young player, and then obviously he was sold. Lukaku is in the shadows of Didier Drogba, so he decided to move. So in certain key areas, Chelsea at that time were very, very strong. No one could tell that Lukaku was going to go on and score the goals. No one could tell that De Bruyne was going to go on and become the midfielder that he is, and no one could foresee the kind of season that Salah's having right now. I mean, seriously, it's like ridiculous. So in terms of the players that are at Manchester United, would the board intervene? Would they have that? Would they be able to look over at Chelsea and say, oh, look what happened there, maybe we shouldn't? Possibly. But the board may look at it in a financial sense and say, we need to balance the books. We need to, if we want to bring players in that Jose wants, we may have to let someone go. Who will that be? I remember Van Gaal's comment, I bought Martial for the next manager as a number 9. Well, he's hardly played as a striker, so he probably was told that he would be the main man, but obviously Lukaku has now come in.
Well, interestingly, I don't know whether you heard about Martial's agent, but just specifically talking about this summer, he said, I can't give any guarantees at the moment, I don't know. And he is pretty much like Rojo, who just signed a new contract, and maybe Martial's like, this is always the risk. People are like, well, maybe Mourinho's going to sell Martial. Well, maybe Luke Shaw and Martial and Pogba are starting to get a bit fed up and thinking, I've only got one career. Do I want to play for this bloke?
I mean, it's always down to the player's decision or the player and their agent about whether or not they want to stay at the club. when the club offer them these long-term contracts, they don't have to sign it. No one's forcing them to sign anything. You know, if they're confident in their skill set, they can put themselves forward to any club and say, I want to leave. They can openly say they want to go. There's nothing wrong with players saying that. It'll upset the fans. But if you're a footballer and you think my time is done at this club, I need to move on, then say so. It can't always be down to the manager upsetting the player and saying, he's not picking me. This is why I'm moving on. Players move on for money. Players move on because they want to play in a warmer country. They move on for family reasons. Whether those players are actually part of Jose's plan for the next 12 to 18 months, we'll see by the end of the season, or at least by August. But they're young. Out of the three that are named, Shaw would probably be the most likely to leave.
Yeah, I do think it's a shame. Apple Jallo says, "What if nobody can get United back to the top? How will you respond?" We will get back to the top. But...
You know what? I had the same conversation with someone else, right? And if that's the case, then all of the banter and the highfalutin language we've used towards Liverpool fans will come 360 and hit us square in the head, because the further it goes that we don't win a Premier League, people will start pointing fingers and saying, see what happened to them? It's happening to you. So it's not something that's impossible, but I think Jose understands, and I can understand why he's coming out fighting. He knows that everyone is watching. Everyone.
Yeah, definitely. And you know what? It's look, there is no guarantees. Of course, there's not. Manchester United. We didn't win Sir Alex Ferguson broke that duck of over 2 decades, wasn't it? And nobody ever would have thought that was going to ever happen after Sir Matt Busby. So we will win a title again, but it might not be 20 years. It might be 30 years.
Yeah.
It could be 4 years. I don't know. I can't tell you that. When Mourinho came in, I was pretty sure he was going to win us a title within 2 years, and then this Man City thing happened that has been pretty unprecedented. They're a very good team. Obviously, they're backed by a lot of money, and they've got a manager who plays a certain way that works in this league, and they will probably carry on doing that next year, and they might do it the year after, and it wouldn't matter how good we are. It would be a massive challenge for even Sir Alex Ferguson's great United teams. I still think they'd do it, but that was a settled Sir Alex Ferguson team. We're nowhere near that, so it's very, very difficult. But I do think we will do it, but it might take a while. A lot of people in the live comments asking Rodney, "Are you Mourinho in or out?"
I'm Mourinho in. I think, and the reason I say that, I think things would have to be really, really, really bad before I go into the Mourinho out camp. And I say that because we have to look at who's available and who's out there before we start saying get rid of the manager.
Yeah, I mean, I refuse to go down that route because I think it's disrespectful anyway, in my own opinion. But I don't actually see anybody that would, at this point, make me want to move away from Mourinho anyway. And actually, I personally would. I mean, I've not really given it much thought because I don't want to. But I personally wouldn't. As much as people go on about Pochettino, Ancelotti, and maybe after Van Gaal I would have liked those. But actually, I think if Mourinho did walk or they did get rid of him, I would just think, you know what, we've tried 3 different ways now. I actually do think let's get somebody in who knows the club. Let's try and get back to our roots. And if it takes 5 years, so what? At least that journey's something close to what we are all about as a club. Because I think with every one we try, we go further and further away from what we are as a club, and that's the most dangerous thing. You think about some of the mistakes Liverpool made over the years with people like Roy Hodgson and I don't want us to lose our identity, and
is it Houllier?
Yeah, and I think our owners, Sir Alex Ferguson, Sir Bobby, and a few others apart. We've got American owners. We've got Ed Woodward, who's a great businessman. But are they Manchester United men or are they businessmen? Well, they're businessmen, and
businessmen. That's important.
We need to keep our identity, and I think Mourinho understands the identity of United. But I think the next one has to be something to do with the club, because I think it's been abundantly clear over the last few months that is very, very, very important to Manchester United fans. Probably more important than a lot of people actually thought. That, you know, how we play football, what we are as a club. We were reminded by it every February when the Munich tragedy anniversary comes round, and that's going to happen every year for the rest of our lives and the rest of United's lives. And I think that and many other things just reminds us how important what we are is. It's the old winning the lottery thing, isn't it? Do you want to win the lottery, or do you want to be a millionaire based on all your success over the years of the business you've built? And United are millionaires because of the success they've built. City have won the lottery, Chelsea won the lottery. We're millionaires because of what we've built, and that matters, and that history matters, and we can't move away from it no matter how much money there is in the game.
No, I mean, our history is, I mean, some would see it as almost a ghost or a heavy burden. But I think Manchester United fans understand the importance of that history and what it means. And it kind of comes to the question of is style, because they're talking about the Manchester United way, the Manchester United style. Is style second place to winning right now? Because considering the fallout from the Sevilla defeat, the possible talk of players moving, the players being unhappy, you know, the only thing that will take the focus away from those debates and discussions are winning a trophy, and the only trophy that's available is the FA Cup. So it's really important that Manchester United, as a team, as a club, focus on that. That the people upstairs understand that they want to win something, which will then kind of reinforce the history of winning or being a successful club. The fans will be happy, and then you'll be able to kind of grow and build. But if Man United don't win the FA Cup, then all of these things that we've looked at will only just grow and get bigger and bigger and bigger, and you'll have almost like a club divided, not necessarily just between the players, but between the fans. Because there'll be fans that'll say they don't want Jose, there'll be fans that say they do want Jose, there'll be fans that say they don't want Pogba, they don't want the Gea to go, some will say they want him to go. It will really mushroom, because we're impatient. As fans, we're impatient. Even though Manchester United are second, we still want more.
The system is the problem, not the players and their personal lives, says Chubal. And Awash Mahmood, thanks for the contribution. He says 92 deserve a chance. Experienced managers have tried, talking about the class of 92. Fellaini is world class, guys. Stop hating, says Team Killer. I think he's drunk again. Do chuck us some questions, but that's something that's, I think, is quite sad actually, Rodney, because we are second in the league. We are, we're out of the Champions League. Obviously, that was disappointing, but we are still in the FA Cup. We progressed from last season. However, we're in this situation that is, I look at Liverpool, Man City, Spurs, stability. Manchester United, we're above two of those teams. We're in the FA Cup quarter-final, like I said. There's definitely a divide in fans. There's definitely appears to be a divide in the dressing room, although people seem to be quite individualistic about it and apathetic. There's definitely a divide between Mourinho and both players and the fans, based on some of the comments he's made. It's not a nice situation, and actually on paper we have progressed and we are progressing, but we're in this situation. It's almost as if we're 10th in the league and we're out of all the cups, and I think it's just a really sad situation we're in at the moment, because as much as we, I think over the last few weeks, personally doing these shows and the channel, I've sort of hoped that the Mourinho out movement would just sort of, go out a little bit, but it's not. And I don't disrespect it because it's everybody's opinion, but it must be if you're, even if they care, if you're Mourinho or the board, it must be a really puzzling situation to resolve when you are in a situation of progress. You're going to spend money in the summer and improve, but you've got this situation. And somebody said to me today, who's not a United fan, they quoted me on something that I always say, but to all my Villa friends and Liverpool fans, I always say when their manager's doing badly and they'll say, no, we should stick with him, they're going to do well. I always say, name me a manager who's turned it around when it's gone bad. They never do. They never do. They always end up with the sack. And I was quoted that back today. They said, name me a manager when they start to lose the crowd, they win it back. And I can't. There will be one, but I can't think of one. And I just thought, it's all very, very sad because I do believe Mourinho can turn it back. But for some reason, we fell into this situation where we've got divided players, divided fans, and I think it's very sad.
Do you know, it is sad. And just thinking about what you said, name your manager that's succeeded or stayed if the crowd have turned against them. I can't think of one. But I think that the owners of Manchester United, and this is what, and I'm looking at the comments, someone said, oh, if the FA Cup will make the season a success, get out. And I'm not thinking, well, not necessarily make it a success. What it will do, it will distract others from the arguments and the discussions that are currently taking place now. So the Jose out team, they won't have so many people listening because people will talk about a winning trophy. The board and the owners will be like, well, we've won something, and therefore with that comes more revenue and more prestige, and we can talk about that in whatever meetings that we go to. The money men will see it as successful. So they won't necessarily want to replace Jose if there is a trophy. But if there isn't a trophy and the conversations continue to happen for the rest of the season about players being unhappy, players being subbed, lack of personality, lack of application, all of those things, it just amplifies because you've got nothing else to distract yourself with. At this moment in time, even though Manchester United are second, fans aren't happy with it. And it will get worse if Manchester United slip into third and then fourth. That's the issue that people have to kind of think about because the FA Cup
I
really
called
is...
it after the Chelsea and Liverpool results. I said he's only ever because of what's gone on, and I remember it straight after Christmas saying give him a month, and we got Sanchez, and people gave him a month, and then went wrong in February, and I said Liverpool Chelsea good results, but we're only one result away, and it'll all start again, and I've already flagged Man City game. If that goes bad, that it's going to go bad again, and I can't see how we're going to go to. I mean, I'm not negative at all. I just don't see how we can go the state we're in to the Etihad and get a result unless we park the bus for 90 minutes and get a bit of luck. And that's not going to please fans either because it's like, well, we parked the bus. So I think he's on a hide into nothing with that unless we produce something that we've not done for a long time, and we've got the players to do it. I think that's going to be another nail in the coffin. And I just think no matter what, I'm talking out loud here. I'm actually starting to think, you know what, this is only going to end badly because the people who are against him, and like I say, respect their opinions, I just don't agree with it. I just don't think they're going to change. I don't think they're going to change. I think they've made their mind up, a lot of them. I think some will change, but I think some won't. And there's quite a lot of people who are of that mindset now. And I think unless we start playing scintillating United football of old and we start winning games and we start the season off well, I just think I'll go back to it. I suppose my own medicine. Name me a manager who's turned it around and turned the fans back because it's very, very difficult to do, and it's probably the biggest challenge of his career. I think it was anyway, but he's made it hard for himself.
He has made it hard, and this is the thing. It's those fans and supporters that are not happy with Jose, that want him gone. There was a huge bank of individuals that weren't happy with Louis van Gaal. There were a huge bank of individuals who weren't happy with David Moyes. And throughout his time, Sir Alex Ferguson had some individuals that said that he needed to retire. He should have retired earlier than he did, etc., etc. It's no different with Jose. The style, and this is what I said earlier, is the style necessarily that important? Because if you win a trophy, the arguments about style will still be there, but they will just shift to a later point in time. If you don't win the FA Cup or you get knocked out, then the arguments about style, about player power, about people who are not being unpicked, and all of those other things just mushroom and escalate. And then, if Jose does go, if the owners do get rid of him, then we're in a position like Liverpool were many years ago, scrambling around for a manager that we can't find, picking someone that isn't suitable, as we already did 4 or 5 years ago, who technically still is our manager because they gave him a 5-year deal. Yeah, exactly. People need to remember that. and then going down a road with someone who then has to come in, change everything that's already been done, bring in their own philosophy. And this is what I said to you some months ago, I believe. When we talk about the Manchester United way, is that in place in the academy? Is that coming up through the under 21s, the under 23s? Because if it is, then we can look at the youth system and think those players are coming through. If they're not, are we as fans and supporters able to continually bang on about this Manchester United way if it's not being played from the youth up? Because the first team are buying players and they don't know about the Manchester United way.
My dad said to me a few weeks ago, I don't know whether Mourinho is going to make you, because he's a Chelsea fan. He says, I don't know whether Mourinho is going to make you successful, but what you needed was the Mourinho straight from Porto. That's what you needed.
He did.
He was hungry. He was driven. He was aggressive, and that is exactly what you need at Manchester United at the moment. I said, I don't know whether you need Mourinho not right now, who's a wounded animal, and I don't know whether he's in love with football anymore. And maybe that's true, but that Man City game. That's. I mean, I said this before. Probably it was before the Liverpool game. It might have even been just after the Chelsea game. Man City are already talking about it. They've been talking about it for a while. I think Company said it would be a dream, once in a lifetime opportunity to win the title at home against Manchester United. They are a team that could probably play blindfolded because they know how to play together so well. They're going to be massively motivated. It isn't a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for them. It's a massive statement. You know, Sir Alex used to call them the noisy neighbours. They might be in a situation where they not only win the title, but they put us to the sword at the same time.
Yeah.
As fans, forgetting what we feel about the current players, the current manager, whatever, that is humiliation of, almost, it's not the Aguero last. Well, is it? Who knows what it's going to feel like, but it's going to be pretty horrible. I feel massively sorry for Mourinho for that, because there's nothing. It's just that's just a circumstance of fate. There's nothing. He's not contributed to that. Liverpool, Spurs, they're miles behind this season as well. So are Arsenal. So are Chelsea. It's just bloody typical that we've got that game with that opportunity there. I think that is going to be. People might be moaning now. I think that is going to be biblical if and when we lose that game.
It will. I think. I in my head, I've already written that game off.
It's just the humiliation, isn't it? It's the humiliation.
Yeah, I just felt. I mean, how much hurt can Man United fans actually take right now? There's the Newcastle. There's the Bristol City. There's the Spurs at Wembley in the league. There's Sevilla. I mean, seriously. I'm not going to get myself worked up for that game.
It's a bit different being at City, watching them win the title and possibly beat us. Hopefully it will only be. Well, hopefully we won't get beat, because if we don't get beat, the joke's on them, isn't it? So
if Jose parks the bus that day and gets a 0-0, no one will complain. They won't, because they'll be happy they didn't lose to the league winners.
He will park the bus though, won't he? I mean,
he will. Of course he will.
I don't think he's got a team not to. I don't think anybody's got a team not to do that. And I think you're right there. It will irritate people if we park the bus, but name me a team that's going to go to Man City this season and try and play. Spurs tried it and got absolutely devastated.
And this is the funniest thing. When people talk about Jose saying, "Oh, he's anti-football," when Real Madrid went to PSG, what do you think Zidane did? He parked the bus. He dropped Toni Kroos and Modric. He thought, no, I'm bringing in grafters. You guys are going to defend and you're going to hit PSG on the counter-attack. No one mentioned a word. It's just because they've got a star-studded team and a player up front, but they did exactly what Jose would have done. They parked the bus.
Here's a good question, Rodney. Evie Burgess says, Sir Alex went trophyless for 4 years and the pressure was mounting and he won the 1990 FA Cup and turned it around. I'm dead against that. I've got to be honest. I didn't like it with Moyes, and I don't like it with Mourinho, even though I'm Mourinho in. I just don't agree with the comparison of what Sir Alex Ferguson had, because what he walked into was a club that hadn't won the title in decades, and a totally different world as well. I mean, totally different world, and also Sir Alex Ferguson in the late 80s, it was a different footballing landscape. You couldn't just go and buy France's best player and Sweden's best player and the Ivory Coast best centre back. You didn't. You bought British that people weren't buying foreign then. So, and Liverpool at that time were a very, very, very good side. And also, it was, we're coming up for how many years ago now? 30 years ago? You can't compare the two. You can't compare the two.
It's a different world.
But that's not to say in 20 years' time we might have a different manager and hopefully we'll all be here and we'll be saying, remember Mourinho? Everyone was against him. He won the FA Cup. Man City won that title and the next year we won the treble. So I think I'm not dissing the Sir Alex Ferguson analogy. I'm just saying this is a different time and Mourinho will have to make his own story.
Yeah, he will have to make his own story. But I think for him to make his own story, he's going to have to change the team. Because a lot of the players that are there are not his players.
And it was positive, I think, that people will say, well, what's he been doing for the last 2 years, obviously, and I said this last night, but at least he came out publicly and was sort of like making it aware that for 2 days I've been drilling them in playing attacking football. They didn't do it, but a lot of people said he wouldn't do that. Oh, he's not going to change, Mark. Well, that was, for me, that was a big public statement that he is trying to change.
Do you know what, Mark? I'll be honest. How many times did Louis van Gaal's team play attacking football?
Yeah, well, never really, did they?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's been the state of affairs at Old Trafford for quite some time, regardless of who the man. I bet if they brought Ancelotti in, the style of play would still be the same. The players need a shake-up. They do. Even the ones that have come in, they need a shake-up.
I do. I think it's as simplistic as a big, massive kick up the arse, and that I think the whole club probably needs it from top to bottom. But whether it'll get it or not, I don't know. But I don't think it's rocket science. I don't think it's a whole new playing staff. We signed Alexis. People talk about signings. We signed Alexis Sanchez 6 weeks ago. And he's already fell into the groove of Martial, Pogba, and all our other flair players of being below par. So everyone's like, oh yeah, we've got the summer to come, and I'm sure we will make signings. But does that solve the problem? Sanchez is a prime example of that. It's it clearly is an issue around the style and the coaching for me. And but if that clicks right. You get the best out of Sanchez, the best out of Martial, the best out of Rashford, the best out of Pogba, the best out of Mata, the best out of Lingard. That's 5 or 6 players there who, as Chris Sutton said, I think they're 40% below where they can be.
40%. I think what Mourinho needs. I think he needs Frank de Boer as his assistant. just to give him a helping hand. There is the style thing is an issue. There's no doubt about it. There's the style of play, the intensity, just the total approach to games is an issue. I just hope that it changes sooner rather than later for all parties, fans especially. But Jose, if it doesn't, like you say, the Jose out brigade will get louder and their argument will be more sustained, and it will be difficult for people to ignore that things aren't going right.
Tom Free says, £1,000, Mark. We will do the treble next season and we'll win it at the Etihad. I will take that bet. Live on air, I will take that bet. And I will happily pay you £1,000 if we win the treble next year and win it at Etihad. It'll be worth every penny.
I'm going to have to favourite this show just to remember.
Yeah. And I won't take the £1,000 off you. It's a one-way thing. I will happily give you £1,000 if we win the treble next season and we win it and we win the title at the Etihad. I will pay that now. I think we all would. I'd pay £1,000 for that, wouldn't you? Definitely. Never going to happen. Never going to happen. Well, never say never. But anyway, yes, so I'm going to do the show at 1 o'clock tomorrow. We'll give this away then, 1 o'clock live tomorrow. And I'll do the show that I was meant to do today. I'm suffering with a cold, but hopefully a good night's sleep will make me feel a bit better and I can do that tomorrow. We will be live at 8 o'clock tomorrow night as well. Thanks for coming on, Rodney.
Thank you for having me on.
Always good to have you on. And please do hit that like button. Lots and lots of people watching. So do like the video and subscribe to the channel if you are new. We're closing in on 209,000, which would be nice to do on the international break. Got loads and loads to come up. And thanks to everyone who thanked me about that little trick. Because we do long videos on the United Stand. But if you are at work or you're on the way to work, remember you can click the icon underneath. It's a gear icon underneath the video. And you can change the speed from normal to 1.5 or even 2. And what it does is it will speed our talking up slightly so that you get through an hour video in 45 minutes, or if you double the speed of the talking, in half an hour. Loads of people have been saying, oh, thanks for that, I never knew you could do it. I do it on all the podcasts and everything I listen to on the YouTube, and you get through it a lot quicker. You can watch a lot more. There we go. Thanks everyone for watching. Really enjoyed it. 1 o'clock tomorrow, 8 o'clock tomorrow night. Who knows what tomorrow will bring. Every day on the international break there's always going to be something big breaking, because players away from the club, and loose lips equals loose tongues. So there's always stuff coming out. So thanks everyone. Speak to you all later. Really enjoyed the show. Thanks to Rodney. Thanks to the live comments. And see you all tomorrow. Thanks for watching. Thanks for coming on, Rodney.
Cheers, thank you. Interesting.
Yeah, well, it's as I said, it's sad at the moment because there's a lot of division, which